Hello everybody, welcome back to another edition of the EcoStruxure Machine Expert training. I'm your host Leandro Humada, and in this video we're going to see how we can migrate an application for the M221 and migrate that using the EcoStruxure Machine Expert to using in a Modicon M241, M251 or the M262. So let's go to the software. So once you have the application made for the Modicon M221, you should be able to open it on the EcoStruxure Machine Expert. So once you already finished to install the Machine Expert, a license and everything, we just need to go to File, Open Project, okay, and select the file that you already have for the M221. In my case, I have already opened an instance of the program that I want to migrate, so I made a copy of this in the same location, here, this one. Otherwise, if I open this, we're going to have an error, this message. Okay, so it means that it's using another software. So I have already copied this and pasted here and open this one now. And by default, we have this view. So basically, as the M221 by the format and the amount of IOs, it could be similar to the M241. That's why you have this view to select to easily migrate that to the M241. And you also have the possibility to migrate that to the HMI. So I'm going to use the M241. In my case, I'm using this should be the 24 IOs and relay output with Ethernet. So the common sense would be in this one, select something similar. So I'm going to use this one, C24R, to have the possibility to select the implementation language. We're going to use ladder because if we came from M221, probably the best to keep it in that way. And also we can change the device name. I'm going to leave it as it. So you have this message trying to using a higher software for the basic. We don't have any other option, so yes. Once you have completed that, you just need to leave it working, okay? Based on the program that you have made, okay, that there are going to be some changes on the Machine Expert because the Machine Expert doesn't work the same way as the basic, okay? So you will need to check and be very careful on the message that we have. So in my case, I have 15 errors, no problem, okay? And then what we need to do, in my case, I have downloaded the latest one of the Machine Expert, which is the version 2.0.2, okay? So it's going to make an upgrade here. Just leave it thinking, okay? So just check this. So when you open the application, okay, in the new environment, we need to identify where are the things that we need to configure, the POU, the program, and so on. So we have like this navigation, okay? We have here, we have device tree, application tree, and tool tree. These are the navigators that allow us to navigate in our program and in the configuration of the hardware, basically. If you're not able to see this, you just need to go to View, Navigators, and select what do you want. So let's start by the hardware part. So you have the IOs, okay, and you have the configuration of the ports. So if we go to M221, the configuration is in the configuration view. And here you can select the digital inputs, digital outputs for the software, okay? And then you have the Ethernet port, the IO scanner, and the Modbus serial. Then you can select if it's IO scanner or not, okay? Over here, remember that you only use one for Ethernet or Modbus serial, but I'm not going to enter this topic. So now in the Machine Expert, you have in the device tree, okay, you just have the digital inputs and outputs from the embedded IOs of the controller. If you need to add, or if you already have a new one, if you have a TM3 options, this is where it's going to be located, okay? Just add one of these ones just to show you. It's going to be located over here in the IO bus. And if you have a cartridge, it should be over here, okay? So let me just delete this. probably the cartridge we have difference compared with the M241, M2 for the M241 and for the M221. So if you go over here, you can see they are, I believe they are different. Okay, TM2C and TMC4. Okay, so they are different. So if you have a cartridge on the side, you need to be careful. Now you have the Ethernet ports. Okay, that you have the communications and everything. The serial line, the Ethernet one, you have this configuration. It's going to be the same as I already have over here. Okay, the serial line is not configured, but they have some initial configuration. Okay, Modbus manager and everything. If you are using just Modbus serial, just pay attention to this one, and you will see what you have. For the Ethernet, in my case, as I'm using IO scanner, is a little bit different compared with the functions that we can use on the Ethernet port. So let's go over here. In order to add the IO scanner, what we need to do is to click on the plus over here, or right click, add device, protocol managers, add device. Just wait for this to load. Close. Here in the manager, what you need to do is to add the device or the protocol that you're going to use. And for example, I'm going to use a generic. So here is the generic devices for Modbus TCP. So in my case, I was using this M172. I'm going to create it. So it should be PLC underscore M172. It's another device. And it's already added. What I'm focused here is only the hardware part. Then we're gonna cover the code of the PLC. I'm just going to, so you can see the difference between the softwares and how you can sort it out some incompatibilities that we can have due to the new generations. So let's go on this one. We have the PLC. We need to configure the IP address because this one is new one. And here we have the channels. Here the channels of the IO scanner are the one that we have configured like this. Over here, we should need to do the same. So if you remember here, the functions, we have all these functions to be used. Okay. In the M241, okay, we don't have the same. We have this. We have for the holding register and multiple read and write, okay, for the holding register. So if you were using in here this function block, for example, for input register, then you will need to use read and write part. Okay, just to let you know that. So I'm going to delete this part. Okay, I'm going to select over here channels, analog inputs, comment, read holding register 8235, two inputs. Okay, then once the channel is added into our system, we just need to over here and then here. Okay, you should be able to find the IO mapping. In the IO mapping, you should have the channel configurations. Okay, you can see here I have this channel, which is related to the input channel I have already described before here. Okay, this is how you can create the different channels, analog inputs and 172. Okay, there you have analog input if you want to add more description. So this is how you can sort it out of the IO scanner, okay, for the Modbus TCP. If you're using the serial one, it has more functionalities. Okay, let me just show you. If you want to use the IO scanner or the serial line, we just need to go Modbus IO scanner, close, generic mode as a slave, and here you don't have that kind of problem. Okay, just add the channel here and you have more functionalities. Okay, so this is just the part to explain the IO scanner in case you're using Model TCP. Now, the IOS is the same, it's already configured. Okay, you can have over here as I have in my other application. Close this. Input, now I'm going to apply the changes. Input, start, stop, and sensor, which is the same that I have here. And you can find this application.iostart, and you can find over here that this is cross. Okay, now I'm going to explain why. So in the Machine Expert, the variables are not used the same way as you have in the Machine Expert Basic. In order to use the variables, we have the locals and we have the globals variables. The locals, when we make the migration to the Machine Expert, there is anything, they are only globals, so the migration is much faster. So the global variables that we have here are called GBLs, and if we go to the applications tree, you should be able to find something like this. Here are located the variables that you had from the M221 and are separated in GBLs. Okay, by default we have this GBL in new project, so it should be empty when you open it. Right, okay, it's empty, there is nothing else there. But okay, for example, for the IOs that we have, it should be located over here, local IO. Here in this local IO, okay, it's like having a database of variables, okay, inside the PLC, and you can link that to the inputs and outputs. Okay, that is the idea, and it's separated in different type of GBLs. Okay, so if you go here, you can find the 3 digital inputs that I have in the controller, and I have the digital outputs that I have in the controller. Okay, if we go to device tree, DQ, you can find here the outputs that I have already created. Now, if we go to the M221, digital inputs are over here, digital outputs over there. Okay, so this is very straightforward. And if you need to add a new variable here, we just need to go here, okay, add a new variable, for example, emergency, okay, and then you can use it in the program that you have, okay, like this. Application, this is the application, okay, example like this. Emergency. Let me just emergency. In order to find the variable, we just need to go to IO global. Okay, this is one way, easiest way, and there you have the variable over there. Okay, that is linked. This way is different to the one that you have on the migration. Okay, or what it does in the migration is the following. So imagine that I have this output over here. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to create the variable over here. So this one should be Q_emergency. Doesn't matter, the Q is just a prefix. If you don't want to use it, then use it. Just use emergency. So Q emergency, and here in the output, I link the output to that variable on the GBL. So the GBL will be located in application, and then we just need to go to local IO and select emergency. Check this. This variable over here, as you can see, is not cross, but as soon as I link the output with this GBL, okay, it will disappear. So there, as you can see, it's finished. And if I want to use it, I just use the name Q_emergency, and that's it. Okay, this is how you can work with the IOs, how it's done. Okay, and if you take a look, then we have the memory address. If we go over here, we have the variables in the programming, and then we have the memory options. The memory options is separated between memory bits and memory words. Okay, and here is almost the same. So we have memory bits over here, okay, that start in a different location, okay, and then we have the memory float for float real variables that we have, and then we have the memory words that you can see over here. Okay, so everything is in the same place. Okay, so you don't need to do anything. Just check the application and what are the errors. So if we go over here, device, conversion, I will already delete the errors. So this is how you can link the variables that you have. Okay, now something I forgot about the IO scanner is that the IO scanner on the PLC and the M221, it creates like these IO objects, no, these network objects that we have over here. Okay, you can see I had created this one by default when you create the channel for the output and this one for the input. So as in this new software for you, if you are not familiar, we don't have these kind of addresses, %IWM 300, we don't have it. So in the new software, what we have is a GBL with those names, in case we are using that in our software. So what we need to do is to go to the IO scanner, and in the IO scanner, in the IO mapping, what we need to do is to link the channel that we have configured with that specific variable. So we can go over here, IO scanner, and select like this. So now in our code that haven't been changed, we can use that variable. The same over here. Now, if we don't want to use this name because it doesn't mean anything, we can change the name of the variable. So for that, the best is to have this view, the tabular, which is this one, tabular. You can change to textual, but I recommend to use the tabular for this, what I want to show you. So in this case, this is the variable, and 172_101. So copy, and here we should be able to paste it over here to change. Once you try to change the variable, you will have this message to change in all the places of the software that name. I recommend you to do it in this way. So yes, I want to change that old name to the new one. Yes, and you should be able to see a windows like this. So in this window, basically tell you, okay, you're using in this GBL, this name is going to be overrated. Okay, yes, and it's going to be overrated in all other places. So here I'm going to do the same, but for the other analog output. Yes, you can see here is also using over here in the other channel. So this way you can change the variable in all the code that you have. I'm going to proceed with OK. Now it's in this one. Okay, that's good. So now instead of using the IW something, you just need to use the name that you want in your code. So let me just close the windows. Okay, so I believe this part is already covered. Okay, what I want to do now is, in case you don't have the M241 and you need to go, for example, to the M262 or M251, is how we can change this controller. One is already selected. So in order to change this, we just need to go to device tree again, right click on my controller and select this, convert device. When you select convert device, you can see the complete list of devices that are installed in your laptop for the software. And here, in my case, as you can see all of this, I'm going to use the Modicon M251, okay, which is the one that I have on the bench. So select this one, okay, no problem. So something important here is that, for example, the M251 doesn't have any embedded IOs, so you will need to add the TM3 in here. So Once it's added, okay, you can see over here, it's not finished, so just wait a few minutes. Okay, it's finished. So in here, you just see that there is no IOS, okay, but the GBLs with the IOS is still in there, which is good. So we just need to, we don't need to change anything in our program. We just need to map these symbols, variables, names into the digital inputs or digital outputs or analog inputs, analog outputs, okay? We just need to do that. So in this case, I'm going to use, for example, I don't know, let's see a combination for the digital inputs, mixed, this one, okay? So this one is a mix of inputs and outputs. This TN3 is going to be located over here. Now, if I double click here, you can see inputs and outputs that start with any name, it doesn't matter. You can reset the mapping in case you don't want it, okay? Just check over there, reset the mapping, yes, using this. And now you just start linking the variables that you have. So if you need to application, local IO, let's start with the start, okay? And this is how you can make the application again in case you need to do something, okay? The same for the inputs and outputs. Q alarm, I don't remember the location for this, but I believe you get the point on this. Okay, this is how you can change the IOS, how you can add new IOS. I believe this part is already covered. And it's the same for the IO scanner. Okay, you can see it's still all the information there. So far we have seen how to work with the variables, the IOS in our software, and how the memories %M are located right now over here, and also the memory words that we have. Okay, this is how you should work. Now, in order to global variables, okay, so in this example, in my application, to show you over here, I was using, let's change this view, I was using some function blocks that came from the M221. Okay, I have this one, a timer, a counter, an instance, okay, that can be located over here. So in the new software, okay, those instances are created under this GBL, global variables, over here, okay? You can see some of them have this weird data type, okay? This data type is the variable type that we have for the variables. You can see over here, some of them has a library, otherwise it's just an instance of, it's not an instance, it's a variable type, okay, for some of the variables I have created. So in this case, this tas.fb for function block something, okay, comes from the library that is located in the tools tree, library manager. And here you have this library, which is for the Twido emulation support, and have some of the function blocks that can be used on the M221. So for example, let's go into this POU over here, this program, which is the PLC MGMT. Okay, we have the timer and we have the counter. So applications, if we go to application, we have the GBLs and we have also the PRGs. So in the PRG MGMT, we should be able to find this function block and this another function block. The first one, okay, is for the timers and the second one for the counters. If you compare this, it's slightly similar, but with more information. We don't have like this entry notation over here. It's just an input on the system. Okay, so this is how you can check the timer. Okay, so here, this is the name that you can use, okay, the name of the function block, and this one is the instance. If you right click over here, browse go to definitions, it goes to the global variables, and you can see that the timer is created over here and is used over here. Okay, so in this case you don't need to do any change, okay, because this library from the Twido allows you to easily migrate the application that you already have for this one. So in this case there is nothing else to touch. Now all the POUs, okay, that we have over here should be exactly the same, okay, as you have in the other side. Now if you have, for example, a comment or something for the ladder, I recommend you to go to Tools, Options, and in the options you have over here FB, LD, and IL. You just need to add symbol and comment if you want, but you can see more information for this. So alarm, you can specify a comment over here, alarm emergency, and then if you go once again to alarms, you can see alarm messages with everything. So you can configure this to be almost the same as you have over here. Okay, so this is one way to do it. So now, as you probably know, the PLC work in scan cycle. So you can, in the scan cycle, you read the inputs, execute the logic, and then update the values that you refresh the values that you have in the outputs, and then so on. So in this case, what we have is to define in the mass task the POUs that you're going to use. Okay, in the M221, what you have is just define in the master all the POUs, and they're going to call, and there is nothing else to do. Here we can have all the POUs over here, okay, but we need to assign them to be called. If you go over here, you can see in the task configuration that you have a must. In this must is where all the POUs are going to be called by default. Okay, so we don't need to do anything extra. We just see all the POUs are going to be called. They are the same that we have in the M221. So this is where all the POUs are called. And if you need to create a new POU for an additional something that you need to do on the machine, you just need to create a new POU in there. Now, let me just show you over here. If you go to the must, you can see also that it's acting as a freewheeling. Okay, probably I would recommend to use a cycle and assign a new cycle, a new interval for this cycle. Okay, or if you don't want to mess around, just leave it freewheeling, but I'm going to change this to cycle. Now in here you can see the order of the codes, and also over here. Probably you already found there is something new here, which is this one, system functions. They are related to some function blocks that allow you to replicate some of the behaviors of some bits, a special bit that you have in the M221 as this. Okay, call start, warm start, first run, you have this information. They're probably called in here in the M221 tools, system objects, system bits. Okay, you have all these, some of them are going to find in the other place. So this is it for this part. Okay, you have this function block that have a schedule, it's over here. This one is the right trigger that we can have over here. Okay, rising edge and falling edge are over there. This is how you can see it, and how you can generate all this information. If you don't know where those variables are located, okay, if you want to investigate a little more, you just need to right click, okay, browse, and go to definition, and here it tells you where that information is located. Now in this case, okay, I'm using this function block, okay, to the RTC. Let me just double check. Where's it called? This one. Okay, and as you can see over here, let me see what it's called, RTC. we have this RTC. And if you go over here, it's empty because there is no implementation or there is no functionality like you have in the M221 in the M241. So you need to create your own logic. But at least what it does is to create the space so you can put this information and you can work in here. So in this case, it creates a specific folder called function blocks. So if there is something missing in the M241 or M251 or M262, you can create your own logic. Probably missing is not the best way. Probably it's not like missing that functionality. The functionality can be done in a different way. Okay, so we have a specific function block, for example, to change the date and time on the controller. So you can use that instead of using this function block, because this specific function block we don't have in the other software. Okay, so you will need to create your own. But just to give you an idea how you can make some migrations to the next generation. So this is it for the function blocks. They are missing the memory words. Okay, so now how to get started trying to download the application to the controller. So I have one PLC here on the bench. I'm going to try to connect to the controller. So let's close all the windows that we have. Now, in order to connect to the controller, what we need to do is to go to device 3. Okay, first compile the project just to check there is everything good. Okay, you can see here at the bottom there are some warnings over there. License, project conversion. Okay, project updates, format conversion. Okay, no problem. Precompile, everything is fine. So we are good to proceed. Okay, so now in order to connect with the controller, we just need to double click here, my controller. You should be able to see this view. Okay, so if you're trying to connect to the controller, okay, I'm going to use a mini USB cable, so it will be much easier for everyone. So let me just check over here. Just find the mini USB. Going to connect the mini USB. Right now it's via Ethernet. I don't want to use the Ethernet, so I'm going to use the mini USB. Okay, so if you want to connect to the device, in my case, I know that I have this no new PLC. I have already downgraded, but just in case you see it and you're trying to download, you are not able to do anything. So what you need to do is to right click into the device that you have in the system. Okay, and then you just need to press this one, which is the login, or you just go to online login. So you're trying to log in, you need to read careful of this and then press Alt F. And if you see this kind of message, don't worry. Okay, we just need to update the firmware of the device. Okay, so you can see over here that this is the firmware that is the PLC that I'm trying to connect with, and this is the firmware that I already defined on the software. Okay, so I need to upgrade the PLC. In order to do that, what we need to do is to open the controller assistant, which is the tool that allowed us to upgrade the firmware of the controller. Okay, so let me just open this, show in this window. So all we need to do is to update the firmware, select the controller that we're going to use, M251. Here I'm going to use this one, which is the latest one, the one that they asked me in the software. Next, you can predefine an IP address. Okay, 251, 255, 255, 255, oops, 255.0. Next, and then you will see a view of the PLC that you have to connect. You will need to define if you're going to use SD card or a direct connection, Ethernet or USB cable. later we're going to see that if the PLC requires some user rights, and if you forget the user rights, you just need to use the SD card. But we are not going to cover that now. So we're going to select right on the controller because I'm physically connected with the controller. So here you can see the view, okay, of the PLC that I have already in the network. I have this one only. So I'm going to double click. Okay, because it was selecting IP address and I want to select not name, so don't worry, it's going to be automatic. Okay, just double click on the controller, it will assign the connection mode automatically. So now you just need to connect. Now probably it will ask you for some user and password. By default it will ask you for administrator with the first A in capital. If the application, if the firmware is the one that I show you, okay, so we just need to, okay. Then once you enter by the default user and password administrator, the first letter in capital, and the password administrator, the first letter in capital, you just need to add a new password. Okay, so this is important. If you forget, you just need to use the SD card. So what I'm going to do is use the same administrator, okay. I'm going to use the same, okay. And then I'm going to overwrite the settings, okay. Alt F, and wait for the process to finish. So I'm going to stop this until it's done. We are almost done with the installation of the firmware. Just wait a few minutes. I'm going to show you now the this is the PLC that I have. Okay, you can see it's downloaded, and the other one is the M221. Then I'm going to make the program from this controller into this one. Okay, in my case I don't have any TM3 model, so just to show you what I have. Don't pay attention to the other cables that you have in the ROM, but this is how you can make the migration. Just wait a few more seconds to this to finish. Okay, we are almost there. Now we should be able to change this 5084 to the version that I want, which is to be this one. Then when this information matches, okay, then you should be able to download the application. Okay, so let's wait for this to finish. Okay, so the PLC will reboot. Okay, we just close this one now and wait for this to boot. Okay, if we want, we can reboot this, refresh this view. Okay, until the PLC is already boot. Pay attention on the firmware, it should be changed. Okay, when it's already up. Just wait for this. Wait for the PLC to finish. Okay. Okay, let's check again, and there we go. Here we have the PLC, okay, with the new version. So what we need to do is to right click, double click on this one, log in, and pay attention on this. It is important to know that it will ask you for the users. You will need to create a users for this. So what you need to do is to activate now. I recommend you to activate this cybersecurity. Then here you will need to create your own user and then your password. I'm going to define administrator as a default. Administrator. I'm using this because I want. Okay, there's no mandatory. You can use whatever you want. Administrator. Okay. Then I need to log in with this credential. Administrator. administrator. Okay, and you're going to log into this node name, which the node name is the name of the device on the network. Okay, and it must be unique. So yes, and if you want, you can change that. I'm going to show you how. So here it says that you don't have any application. It's empty because I already upgraded the firmware, and with the firmware the application is lost. So I'm going to yes, download the application. Now we should start the process of download the application. Let me just show you here. You can see all the LEDs flashing over there, so it's doing something. Okay, this is the post configuration, which is the configuration of the IP address that you have defined on the device. Okay, and let's see now. Something I haven't changed is because I have a already IP address. Okay, and I believe this one. This is the configuration, and I have another device on the network with the same. Okay, so probably I should disconnect this M221 because it has the same IP address, probably. Okay, so let's see, what do we have? Once you are connected, okay, with the PLC, okay, you can see over here that you are in run. Okay, that means that the application that you are on the PLC is the same, it's working. Is in run. Here you can see the message in case you have a fault or something. Now, if you go to, I forget to mention this. If you go to the node name here in the communication settings, you should be able to right click on the device that you have. This one, change device name. You can change to the one that you want. By default, I believe it starts with the M251 or with the device at some numbers. Okay. You can change that to something more familiar. Then what we need to do is to check on the device tree, which are the devices that you have on the configuration. So in my case, you can see here the IO bus is missing the TN3, which should be over here. Okay, it's missing that. So that means that I don't have the TN3, and this icon means that check there is something that isn't working. This cycle, the green ones, means that is everything fine. Okay, and here the problem that I have is that I already defined this device, okay, in a different network, and it's not connecting the one that I want. That's why. Okay, so what we can do now, okay, is to check the application. So if we go to the applications, the reason is that it's not working because I have assigned the connection of the other PLC into this one, which is the IO scanner, and it's in a different network, the same network as I have this one. That's why it's not going to work. But no problem. I mean, you get the point. So how to check the application? The first thing I told you before is the cycle, okay, and I have already specified as 20 milliseconds. So if you go to task configuration, you can see the time of execution time of this. So you can see this application, the average time is this. So if you use freewheeling, probably it's going to be too much, because as soon as you start a new one, and you will overload the processor. So probably I recommend to use cycle and use a time according to this. Okay. So how you can check the program? Well, it's simple. We just need to go to the PU that you want, and here you should be able to see the status of everything. Now, if you go to the variable list, GVL, you can access and see the actual value for the variables that you want. So this one compared to the M221 that you need to create a table in order to see the variables that you want is much better on the Machine Expert. Okay, you just create the GVLs that you want, and you can see the complete list. Now, if you want to see some specific information, what you can do, let me just delete all this. you can create what is called a watch. So you can go to view, watch. The watch is already created one. I'm going to create the watch 2. Here you can add the variables that you want. So double click, select this icon over here to see all the variables that you can have. Application, iOS. Okay. So in my case, I'm going to use, for example, sensor, put it in there, and that's all. Okay, so this is how you can see the data. Now, if you want to use, for example, let me just log out. Imagine that some of the data that you have requires to store the information. So when you, not to store, but when you power cycle the controller, you don't want that the information that you have is vanished. So if you want to retain information on the variables, what you can do is the following. The simple way should be to select the values that have a configuration. For example, in my case, if we go back to the M221 application I had before, these variables are related to configuration of the machine. So what you can do is to change the way of the variable works. So what you can do is select one of the variables, okay, and here if you click on the variable and the var global in the first column, you just need to select retain and persistent in all the variables that you want that the information is not lost. Okay, so that is good. Then if you want to initialize the variable for the initial configuration, you can do it over here, select 10, and then you can select all the variables with the global retain. So the next time you power off and power on the controller, the information is not lost. So you can use this, and if you want to do it much faster, you can change between this textual view, copy all this information that you have, okay, paste it again. So everything between this var global retain persistence is going to be in there. So if we go now to the tabular view, all the variables are already created with this kind of information. If you want to do the things right, my recommendation is to add objects, persistent variables, select this, don't change this, doesn't matter. Now right click, add all instance path. Okay, we need to compile first. Compile the application, right click, add all instance paths, and it will add in here the information that you have for the variables that are for retain persist. So this is how you should work on this. Now, one important thing that you must know when you connect with the PLC, okay, so we already covered where are all the variables and everything from the M221 in this controller. So I'm going to connect again with the controller, okay. It's already selected. You can see there the node name is one of the variables here. Here I have made, this is something that I'm going to check later, but on this kind of PLCs, we have like a space for the application that's going to be the run, and then the other one that is going to be store the binary codes for the application. So when the PLC is power cycle, it takes this information that I have stored and it's going to put it on the RAM, and then it's going to run over there. If we make an online change, it will change the application in here that we have. So the next time you power cycle the controller, this is going to be empty and it's going to download the other application. So it's important that okay, you make an upgrade of the application that you have, and that is called the boot application. So when the PLC boot, the application you have is going to be in the RAM. We're going to cover that. So if we go here, if you make an online change, okay, I have already made some change of the variable, so it asks me for logging with online change. So I'm going to press OK. So if we go to the controller, okay, in this case there are compile errors. Do you want to log in? No. Let me just double check. Okay, so this variable, I haven't explained this, but some of the variable doesn't allow to have the return persist. That's why I can't do this part. Okay, the idea of working the Machine Expert is having like the idea of working with symbols. Okay, so you don't use the memory words, you just use the symbols to program. In this case, don't forget about this part of the persistent variables. You can, this part of the persistent global, you can delete it and you can work on this one with this var global retain. Okay, you can work on this one, compile, and the error should be vanished. Okay, my bad on this one. So you need to connect again, login with online change. Okay, I just want to download. Now, which are the changes? Ah, okay, my bad. That happened when you read the stuff so fast. Basically, what I need to do is to download online change. Okay, so add object, persistent variables, add on instant path. Okay, now what we need to do now, yes, you cannot address over here, but the variable that you link, yes, you can have. So what I'm going to do is to log in with download. Okay, you can see here this downloading application. Okay, that happens when you don't read the things clearly. So they have a post configuration. Okay, we are good to go. The application is in there, and you can see here that they have a value already pre-configured. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Okay, going to, you can do this part, and here the configuration, I can specify some values. So 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, in order to write these new values, the best thing that you can do is to go debug. Here you have force and write values. I recommend you to use the write values, which is the Control F7. Yes, I'm going to write these values over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, okay, is to check the application on the controller. In order to check that, there is a useful structure in the PLC, which is called PLC_R. Okay, if you use the watch, you can see all this information over here. So this is very useful when you want to check what is going on with the controller. Okay, just use PLC_R in the watch to see more information. So one of the things that you need to check basically is this one. Okay, valid boot application. It means that when you disconnect the power supply from the controller and you power on again, you will have the application. Okay, so that is what I'm going to check now. So I have already downloaded this. Okay, the application is in there. So what I'm going to do is to disconnect the power supply from the controller. Okay, and then I'm going to connect again. So if we go over here, I'm going to disconnect this. Okay, the power supply is lost. I'm going to remove the USB because it's also powered up by the USB. So now I'm going to connect power supply. I'm going to connect the USB. Okay. So now let's wait for the controller to be up and running. Let's refresh this. Let's see if I can delete this one. Okay, there we go. So I have this controller, okay, which is the controller that I have. It's up and running. So I'm going to log in. Do you want to log in? Yes. And it allowed me to log into the controller once again without doing anything. And if we go to the memory word, you have all this information, okay, which is the information that you want to store on the controller. Now, imagine that I want to make a change on the PLC. Set alarms, and I'm going to add new variable over here. This one, just any variable, okay, and I'm going to download this again. I'm going to make an online change. Pay attention on this one, the boot project status, okay? Boot project status, okay, and good. So if you have this, okay, it means that you have different boot projects. So in the next power cycle, this means that this information you have is going to be lost, okay? So I'm going to disconnect from the controller, okay? Now I'm going to power off the controller once again. Good. Start again. Now let's see the controller. This is up and running. Okay, so double click, log in. Yes. And what happened over here? So I have already changed application, and the application I have in the controller is different because I haven't downloaded into the application that is going to put the information in the RAM to be executed is different. So that is the problem that we have, and it asks me for the information or to download a new online change. Okay, so I'm going to make the online change because there is the information I wanted is not in there, and you also asked me to create a boot application. So yes, proceed, and what we can check now, okay, start. You have a valid boot project. So the next time I disconnect, it's gonna be okay. So if you have an invalid boot project, what we can do is to go online and create the boot project. This allows you to update the boot project, and the next time you power cycle the controller, you're gonna have you are not going to have the problem that I showed you a few seconds ago. Okay, that is the idea. Now, if you want to save the project in the PLC, so next time you can go into the PLC and upload it, what you can do is to select this one, source download to the connected device. So in that way, you download your project that you have the Machine Expert into the controller. So next time, what you can do is to source upload to upload the application of the PLC. So I believe this cover most of the information to get started with the Machine Expert. Sorry for this inconvenience of the variables of the persistent bars, but it was my confusion. I wasn't. I didn't take the time to read properly the message, and it can happen to everyone. So this covers everything. I believe it covers how you can identify some of the variables that you have in the M221 in the Machine Expert, how to get started, how to download the application, how to make the upgrade in case, or change the firmware in case you need to do it on the PLC, how to make the connections. I believe this covers most of the parts to get started. So this is it for the moment. You can also check the other videos for the Machine Expert for a few tips, but this is it for the moment. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I see you on the next one.